What's up, everyone? So today we are here with Sara Belt, who is the owner of Through Love Healing. She does animal healing, animal communication. She's also a Reiki practitioner and a good friend of mine. So we're going to kind of just hear her story on how she got to where she is and hear how she became a energy healer and an animal healer and an animal communicator and just how all of that came to be because for me, honestly, I just think that like anybody that can have the patience with animals and just quiet their mind enough to hear an animal is just amazing. So I'm interested in hearing all about that. But first, let's go ahead and start with just your story. Like, how did you? I mean, we all grew up and we grew up different ways. How did you
hmm
end up diving into the spiritual realm and getting where you're at?
okay, well, I would say it started for me, spiritually speaking, like a lot of other people, in 2020 during the pandemic and the lockdown and the, um, I would say, forced stillness almost because we couldn't go out and be around a bunch of people. We couldn't be around a bunch of friends. Life just kind of slowed down a whole lot, and there was nothing to do but stay home and think. I, at the time, had a 9 month old. My daughter was 9 months old.
That's crazy. It was that long
That's
ago.
how
That's
long it was. Yeah.
insane.
She
Yeah.
is 6 now. And it was like my husband was an essential worker. So he was working actually more hours because he worked in food production. So he was gone 60 hours a week. And I was at home with a baby and my thoughts. And it was not easy.
I was gonna say that can either be a good thing or a bad
Yeah,
thing because
yeah.
that's a
It,
hard time.
it was
It's,
definitely a struggle. And what it did was it really brought up a lot of the things I think for me that I needed help with. And it was
mm,
about my thinking patterns, my avoidance, my overall health, both mental and physical. And it just kind of like brought all of these things that I had been too busy or too distracted to notice to the light, which I think happened to a lot of people
I
at
think
that
that was a
time.
really honestly like the COVID era, and I know we've talked about this before, but like just forcing everyone to be quiet and like be with themselves, or even like be with your family, because that
Mm-hmm.
made you like realize so many different things of
Mm-hmm.
like, and I don't know, but and just being able to be quiet and just sit in that stillness, I think that um, that made a ton of people awaken and just kind of realize there's so much more to this journey. But
I feel
yes.
like it was like a big collective shift in energy for sure of like this bustle, working, grinding thing to everybody had to stop or everybody had to change. Like there was very few people that's life weren't, like, at least here in America, that life like wasn't changed dramatically in some way or another, whether their work changed, they started working remote, or like me, they just couldn't go anywhere. I would take my daughter to the library or take her to the park or do things like that. And well, it was March, so we weren't going to the park that much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
So
and really quick, I just want to say one last thing on that is I think that the oh shoot, I done lost my train of thought of what I was going to say. Um, oh, never mind. You can go ahead. I was going to say something that I was so excited to say and I forgot to say it. So anyway, go
that's all
ahead.
right. So yeah, I would say that was when I kind of had to sit still with myself and I realized, like, wow, I'm really not happy about a lot of things in my life, and the core thing that I wasn't happy with was myself. So that kind of started my healing journey, and it made me look at, I started going to therapy. I started taking antidepressants. I started, my husband and I started couples therapy not long after that. And I started looking for something more. I had never been a super religious or super spiritual person. I was like, still really stuck in the physical, everyday distractions of the world. And when I was like, I felt like lonely and I felt kind of empty inside. And it was through looking for something more than myself, I kind of stumbled into spirituality. So it started off for me like, meditations from YouTube or looking into books or blogs or podcasts. And I actually had a friend that I had been friends with for years and years and years who was very, she always told like the best ghost stories because she was like she has a lot of mediumship and psychic abilities, but I had never really sat down and talked to her about spirituality. So I got in touch with her and I was like, I think that I'm looking for something outside of myself, beyond myself, and like, where do I start? And she was like, well, it's not really outward, it's really inward. And
Mm.
so we talked about meditation, and I started to try to meditate, and it was so hard. It was like the hardest thing in the world to sit down with my own thoughts and with my own feelings. And
Was it hard because you couldn't quiet your own mind, or was it hard just because of the stuff that was there that was being brought up?
for me it was definitely a struggle to quiet my own mind. Like I have ADHD.
Mm.
My brain would get distracted, and I was thinking about meditation in this like Zen Buddhist kind of mode only, where I'm just supposed to quiet my mind and sit in stillness. And like
Yeah.
my brain did not stop. It was just constantly talking about what I have to do, what I didn't do, what we're gonna have for dinner. Well, da 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 da,
Mm.
chatter, chatter, chatter. And not only that, it was also like my nervous system, like trying to sit still, my body.
Mm.
It was like it felt like a caged animal. It was like, oh, you're paying attention to me, let's run. Or like, my
What did you do? Like, I'm trying to think, like, what did you do to help yourself, like, quiet your mind or help your body sit still? Or did you start doing a different meditation? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm supposed to sit still. And then
mhm,
they try it and it doesn't work and they either give up or they find another type, such as like a guided meditation or
mhm.
something. What did you find that helped?
Well, for me, I would say I used like a three-pronged attack. Like I started journaling, and that helped quiet my mind a little bit
Mm.
because I could get some of my thoughts out onto paper, and then I didn't have to think them so much.
Yeah.
I also looked into breath work and practiced different types of breathing techniques to kind of calm my body down. And then the third thing was later, I think it was later in 2021, that I started Googling, okay, the restrictions for the pandemic have calmed down, life is starting to get back to normal. And I Googled meditation classes. And one of the first results that came up was the Center for Healing and Integration.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm looking for things because I also had issues with like driving places far away.
Mm.
And a lot of places were like downtown Cincinnati, and I am not a
That's a
downtown
hassle.
girl. I do
Yeah.
not like to drive in that area. So I was like, okay, I need something that's on the west side. And there was basically just the Center for Healing and Integration. And I got on your website, Facebook page, and I found that in a couple weeks from when I had just Googled it, you were going to start Monday meditation at the center. It was like the very first one.
That's awesome.
And I was so excited. I had gone to the center, I think I went the week before for a yoga class that you had there. And then I missed the first meditation because I had the time wrong. I thought it was 6:30 and it started at
Oh,
6.
no.
So I came to the second one, and then I came to the third one, and then I came to the fourth one, and then it just became like a part of my weekly routine. And the difference of like meditating with a group and talking to people that were kind of looking for the same answers to the same kind of questions that I had, like really made me feel like, number one, I wasn't crazy, which was great,
Yes.
confirmation. And two, like, I felt really something I had never felt before, which was like that feeling of like alignment of like, yes,
Mm.
this is the right thing to do. And it was maybe a couple months after I had started coming out regularly for meditation that you offered the chakra bonding course. And it's one of the best things I ever did with my life.
Yeah.
I love the chakra bonding course.
That's awesome.
And I signed up immediately. I heard the words chakra. I had done my own chakra work at home. I had done things, a lot of my stuff I did solitary on my own, just trying to kind of figure things out. And I was like, I'm really looking for a guide to help me through this like process of learning about my energy, clearing my energy, healing the things that I'm trying to heal from like past trauma, childhood stuff, beliefs. And then there you were. You kind of appeared, and the course came, and I signed up. And I remember the first day, and I was so excited. And I knew one of the other people in the class. I didn't know everybody, but we all became friends really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did our meditation. We go through the chakra stuff, and you're like, okay, now it's time to go learn energy healing. And I was like, wait, what? I had not even read the bottom part of the thing that said, and an introduction to energy healing.
You know what's really funny is you'd be so surprised at the amount of people that like come that had no clue that there was um, that we're doing energy healing, even though it
Mm-hmm.
does state it on there, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
learn energy healing, whatever. But that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
surprise, and then now it's like it's you something that was like something that you're going to be doing on your path, and like
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was like an accident. I was just in it for the chakra stuff and like learning about this and like looking for a guide on how to learn more about them and how to work with my chakras. And
Mm-hmm.
then the first time we did energy healing, I started to do the channeling with the energy and everything. And it was like something clicked into place inside of me. And it was just like, I felt like this is something I have been looking for because through the process of healing myself, I found within myself a strong desire to help other people. Because like I remember how like lonely I felt and how sad I felt and how depressed and how anxious and how miserable I was before I started this journey. And through you, along with other friends, along with just practice meditation and myself, I have come to a place where like I'm really happy in my life and
Mm-hmm.
I feel so much better on a day-to-day basis. And to find other people that feel that loneliness and that emptiness and they are reaching out for guidance, for help, for, healing. I don't want people to feel like that and not have anyone, not find anyone. Like I want to be there to help people.
Yeah. Well, I love that, and I think that obviously in this world we need a lot more people that's on that same page. I am curious, like growing up, and I don't know if this is something we've ever talked about, like as a child and stuff, did you ever feel like you were um, in tune with the energies of the world, or that you could like tap into other people's energy or animals' energy or anything, or communicate with animals or anything like that? Like, did that ever happen?
I grew up as kind of like a lonely kid. We lived in a really rural area, so I didn't have kids on the street to play with. Like I had a friend who lived a little bit up the road and she was kind of mean to me.
Mm.
So I didn't really care for her.
Yeah.
So like for me, I took comfort in my dogs and books, reading. So I've always been a big reader. So um we always had dogs, we always had pets, and my grandpa had beagles that he would breed and like and sell as like hunting dogs. He had like a kennel. We had goats. Like this was when I was really little. He passed away when I was like 5. So this was all really young. And I remember the like my mom bred dogs, my grandpa bred dogs, and I would just be in this pile of puppies like all the time. Like that was a part of like home for me is just
Mm.
being with the animals. I would crawl around on the floor and pretend to be a dog a lot of the time. And I think one of the first times that I had this uncanny connection with an animal was when I was probably, I'm trying to think, I was probably 9 or 10. And a few years before, I would say when I was around, maybe around 5 years old, one of our dogs went missing. And she was one of our Boston Terriers, which we've always had. And her name was Ninja. And my mom used to always tell me that my first word when I was a baby wasn't mama or dada, it was Inja, Inja.
Oh,
So, like,
that's
if that tells you, that's how long
yes,
I've been obsessed with dogs.
that's hilarious.
And so mom said somebody stole Ninja out of our yard and she was gone and we
Mm,
never saw her again. Like she
that's
disappeared.
like never, like still to this day. Oh,
No,
that stinks.
never.
Yeah.
But when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I had a dream. And in the dream, we had the front door of our house open, which was something we had a lot. Like I said, we lived in the country. We had the doors open, the windows open a lot. And Ninja walks in the door, comes in the house, and lays on the couch and looks at me and lays down and goes to sleep. And I woke up and I knew that meant Ninja had died
Mm,
wherever she went. And she was telling me that she came home. Like her energy
oh yeah.
returned to us. And it was like her way of like giving me closure and bringing me that peace. Because I got up and I told my mom, I said, Ninja came home. She passed away. Her physical body's gone. And she's home. Her energy is back here where and she just like it felt like a message.
And how
Like
old were you at
I was
that
like
point?
9 years old, nine
That's
or 10 years
crazy
old.
that you're like at 9 years old, you're putting that together
I
and
knew
like,
it as there was like no way for me to know it, but I knew it.
yeah,
There was no question in my mind that that's what that was. And that's probably one of the earliest things that I can remember.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Um,
that's awesome though. I think one of the biggest things, like at least for me and many others that have spiritually awakened, they look
mm,
back on their childhood and they just look at like little moments like that and they're like,
mm,
wow, like I didn't realize that, this was something or whatever. And I don't know. I love that. So basically, you did all your internal looking and started meditating, started to tap into everything, and
mm,
you got introduced to energy healing, and it was something that you really felt passionate about or felt good about. And then, um, where did you go from there to get to where now you own your own business and you are um, doing going to people's houses and doing animal healing
mm,
and communication and doing Reiki energy healing on people and stuff. So like uh, what you after the chakra bonding course, let's just
mm.
say what ended up happening from there to say, you know what, I want to do animal healing and stuff like that. And also maybe just like, do you have anything in your personal life that uh, made you feel like you were close to animals and wanted to do animal healing and all that stuff? So,
Well, when I was 19, I started working with my sister, who was a professional dog groomer. And I was
mm,
washing dogs and learning a ton about dogs. And we always, like I said, we always had dogs, and we also had lizards and we had birds. And I used to be really scared of birds, actually. But I am
they can be
not
creepy.
anymore.
Yeah.
Birds I actually really respect and really enjoy. But we've always like we had mom used to have a turtle. I remember we had fish. All kinds of different animals passed through my life.
Mm.
I always wanted a cat, and I'd get a cat, and I'd have a cat for a while, and then suddenly the mom would say, "Oh, the cat something left."
Oh no.
It would be gone. Mom was not a fan of cats, but so I've always been really close to animals. Animals were my friends
mm,
more than people were when I was really young. And when I was 19, I started working in the grooming industry. I started just washing dogs for people. I would do nails, wash dogs, do that kind of thing. And I did that for a few years. And then, like, logistically, I was going from place to place. Things weren't working out. I ended up going to work, like, back at like food service and like hourly job here and there. I worked at Kroger's,
mm,
and I had my apartment with my then boyfriend, now husband,
mm.
and we had a couple dogs together. We had a cat together. We had two cats and three dogs because we were
Two
20,
cats, 3 dogs. Holy moly.
25, and
Yeah, 25 and animal lovers.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I was working at Kroger's, and my dog, who was like my love of my life, my little Boston Terrier, her name was Francine.
Mm.
She had a very sudden and unexpected death. And my family had to come to work and get me from work and tell me that my dog
Oh
died.
no. That's
And it
terrible.
was worst day of my life. One of the
Yeah.
worst days of my life because she was 10 years old. It was a heart condition we didn't have any awareness that she had, and it was
Mm.
literally out of nowhere. Um, And it was devastating. I became so depressed, and I'm going to work, and I felt like just this emptiness, this depression. And I'm at work and I'm frying chicken in the deli. And I said, I'm quitting my job. I want to go work with dogs again. I am so unhappy. I can't do this anymore. And I put my 2 weeks notice in. I had a week of vacation paid. So they
Nice.
said, work next week, take your second week as your vacation because they didn't want to pay me it.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, if I don't have a job by the time I 2 weeks is up, I'll withdraw my 2 weeks and I'll just keep working here. I got a job within a week at a grooming
Nice.
salon, not with my sister for the first time. So it was kind of like doing things out on my own. And I became very successful at that. I learned how to groom. I moved beyond just washing the dogs into doing everything. I was very hands on. I worked there for 4 or 5 years, and I became, I don't want to sound like conceited, but I became really good at my job. And I think that the whole time I was doing animal communication and I didn't realize it.
Mm, yes.
And that's kind of what gave me an edge in that industry, um, was the way that I interacted with the animals.
Something, and I know we're going to kind of talk more about animal communication in a
Mm-hmm.
second, but something I was just thinking about is, do you feel like, because obviously you're talking utilizing telepathy
Mm-hmm.
and is do you feel like it's different communicating to an animal than it would be communicating to like a spirit guide or to like a person's consciousness or something like that? Kind of hard to phrase my question, but I'm thinking like, because I feel like it's more like they just it's like almost like a different language almost, but maybe not. I don't
I
know.
feel like it's definitely a different language because a lot of the dogs and that I worked with, they it's not like they're speaking English to me and they're not like saying words. It's just like I look at a dog and I'm like, okay, his legs bothering him. I can tell yes by like the way he's shifting his weight on a table, but also I can tell by like the tension and the body language. And then there's also just like feelings that you get, and it's almost like intuitive hits more than it is like a conversation. Sometimes I'll have, a lot of times when I'm doing animal communication now with intention, I'll get pictures of things in my head.
Hmm.
That's a lot of how like the animals communicate with me is through imagery, because I'm clairvoyant, so I see energy a lot, and they'll show me things like the park or a stick or their food, and I'll be like, okay, so the food is causing them to have like stomach problems. They don't like it, something's bothering, or they love their food, or a lot of dogs like to talk about their food, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
That's like
But
the one, I don't know. I get there's a lot of consistency in a dog's life, but like that's the one thing that like just
mhm,
stays the same as their food.
they
But
have a
yeah,
lot of ideas about their food. They have ideas about your food. Like they're
yeah,
like, um, yeah. And I think that when I was grooming and not realizing it, it was just like I wasn't even, it wasn't happening in the front of my conscious mind. It was like happening in my intuitive mind, like in the
mm,
back of my mind, and to a point where I didn't realize like what I was doing. But I would have dogs that were extremely scared, and I would be grooming them as opposed to someone else, and they would do a lot better with me.
mm,
And it's because, I put a lot of effort into making sure that they were comfortable, but also I think it had to do with like I was doing energetic work before I realized it. I
yeah,
And it just kind of, after learning energy healing, and then I was grooming full time, and I'm at work, and I'm like, it wasn't the feeling I had at Kroger where I was like so depressed, but it was like I felt something, a feeling like this isn't where I'm supposed to be forever. I was washing a dog. I wasn't having a great day. And I was like, what if instead of grooming dogs all day, every day, I started doing energy healing? And I had this physical sensation of warmth rise from the back of my heels, like heat rising up through my body, through the back of my head. And it felt like the universe was like, yes. You know what I mean?
Nice.
When
Yes.
you get that yes. And
Yes.
I was like, okay. And for me, I love working with animals and I love working with people. And I think that I needed to start with animals because I was more comfortable there. So
Yeah.
for a lot of people learning Reiki, they're like, well, they want to work with people because people can talk to them and stuff. But for me, when I started with Reiki, it was like working with animals. I was already doing it for years and years and years. So it just seemed like the natural transition to start there.
I never really thought about that. I think I almost feel like you've mentioned this before in one of our like meditations or something, but
Mm-hmm.
I never really like thought about that as just like, well, I guess now I heard your childhood story though. So like where animals were more your friend than humans
Mm-hmm.
were. And then I think that's really cool how it like you ended up doing healing on animals, and because that's where you feel more comfortable with animals than you do
Mm-hmm.
humans. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think that's really cool. Yes. Were you still going, or did I cut you off, or were you still
No,
going?
no.
Okay.
I was just saying, like, yeah, I think that was just the natural progression for me because I felt more comfortable with the dogs, with the cats, than I did with working with people because it was just part of who I am.
Yeah, I agree, and I think so. And you mentioned a few minutes ago, like when you were doing the dog grooming, you feel like there was already energy starting to like run through you into the dogs
Mm-hmm.
or cat or whatever you were grooming, but like,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you think that that was like making them like helping them, like if they have a hurt hip or something, you think that the energy was just kind of moving in and making them feel better in that aspect, so that's why they sometimes liked you better because of
I think
that.
it's definitely a possibility. But I also felt like I wasn't. I also felt very drained. It was like a fatigued a lot of the time when I was working with dogs so much, and I think that part of it was because I didn't know about energetic protection. I think I was using a
Mm.
lot of my own energy too much at the time. So if like other people are experiencing that when they're doing their job, they might be giving away all of their energy to their job instead of learning how to channel other energy into it and protecting themselves. So we could
What
have a whole episode about
I know, I was gonna say like we
that.
could talk about that forever. If I guess, and I think that's a good point though, because I'm sure there are some people that's watching that are probably experiencing the same thing. I mean, no matter if
Hmm.
you're in dog grooming or if you're uh,
Nursing.
uh, nursing, yes, or
Hmm.
nursing 100%,
Hmm.
or even like a grocery store clerk or
Hmm.
something. What would you recommend to help them keep their energy theirs, or make sure that number one, make sure that they're not giving their energy out to people freely and draining themselves, and then also like protecting themselves from feeling other people's emotions, like if someone's
Hmm.
upset or mad or angry, what's your go-to with that?
For me, my go to is definitely about grounding and centering, grounding yourself with the earth, like connecting with the earth and stabilizing in that way. And then I do a lot of like bright white light protection around myself. But also, like, if I'm having a moment with someone in my life and I feel that pull of my energy, it's almost like pay attention more. Like, if you can pay attention, because if it starts to happen, it's almost like I can take a step back,
Mm-hmm.
energetically speaking. I don't, I mean, physically too, if you need
Right.
to, but I can kind of take a step back energetically and be like, okay, I feel this person pulling on my energy, or I feel myself like an urge to kind of like give you all of my energy, and taking that step back and recognizing, okay, no, I need to kind of build a little bit of energetic distance so that I can keep myself like safe and contained to what I need to be.
I think that's good. I mean, and just to speak on this topic, and again, we can talk forever about this.
Mm-hmm.
I truly think that once someone learns how to protect their energy and how to
Mm-hmm.
ground their energy and just make sure that their energy is theirs, they start to establish boundaries and stuff like that, and then they start to, I guess, get an understanding of how precious their energy is and how
Mm-hmm.
easily it can be influenced by others and how easily we give it away. And once you start to do protection and grounding, I just like, I don't know, man, it has been a life changer. For me, it was a life changer. So for anyone that doesn't know, I do the same thing, bright light protection. I'm grounded and
Mhm.
everything, and I know you know that. But I, it helped me with anxiety, and it helped me with
Mhm.
not like picking up someone else's anger or something. I don't know. It's just been a blessing. So I think that's really good that you noticed that.
In the grooming industry, there's something called compassion fatigue. And what
Mm,
it is it's like you have so much compassion for the animals that you're working with. They say it happens in industries where you work with kids, animals, and old people. Okay, you get compassion fatigue because so many of them need so much of your help. You know,
yeah.
people who work in nursing homes experience compassion fatigue, people who work in vet's office, daycares, things like that, because you're with this person or this creature that needs so much from you, and having compassion for every single person every single day, it wears on you, and it takes your energy away. So like having a good strong energetic practice and learning how to bring universal energy into yourself is a great way to give back to yourself what you are giving to so many others when you're working in this field.
I agree. I think of like how nurses or anyone in any kind of field gets numb to like
Hmm.
the stuff, and I mean, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Of just like they're sick of their energy being depleted. They're sick of like taking everyone else's problems on, so they
Hmm.
just start numbing themselves to like the situations that's going
And
on,
then you
and
get stuff like burnout, you know, with your job. Like grooming burnout is real. I can speak to it because that's what I've experienced. I haven't experienced these other professions, but I can see how it would lead to burnout, you know.
mm,
But I think if you, even if you have an office job, or a blue collar job, but if you're spending all day giving all of your energy to your job or to your coworkers, then you're going to experience burnout too. So it can happen with anybody at any place and any
yeah,
time. It's just a little bit easier when you're not working with like able-bodied adults around you.
yes, you're right,
You know.
yes. Well, and I think that like, and I think that burnout is like, I guess I'll say this. I think that paying attention to your energy and when it's running out in a situation or in a place, or when we are like, when someone's affecting our energy in a negative way, just things like that. I think that it's important to kind of like you said, know when to like draw back or know
Mm-hmm.
when to put an extra layer of protection around
Mm-hmm.
yourself if you need to. And I think that that helps in so many ways. But I think situational, when the energy does run out in a situation, a lot of the times after you assess it and you say, all right, is something draining me? Is there something at a certain point? It may be that the energy is just running out there and we
Yeah.
are ready to move on and so on. And I go through my life with like trying to pay attention to how my energy feels in every situation, and like when I feel like it feels good, I run with it and see what happens. And I think that's just a good way to be. So anyway, I'm curious on like, so with animal healing, like healing animals. So I do energy healing on people.
Mm-hmm.
You do energy healing on people as well.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that's all I know. I've done some things with animals before, but nothing like extensive. I've tried to communicate with animals and it's been successful almost any time I've ever tried, but I still feel uncomfortable doing it to a certain point. So so for a human, we have them lay on a table and then we lay our hands on them, we send them energy and we
Mm-hmm.
do what needs to be done. But an animal, I mean, they're not always going to just lay there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their chakra system's different, and it's just all the things. So what I guess I would ask you, what how do you do a healing on an animal, and what are the differences that you see between like an animal and a human, or I don't know, anything that you can think of when it comes to that realm of things.
Well, I think that when I'm working with animals, one of the first major differences is I often don't actually make physical contact. You know,
Mm,
when I'm working with people, we lay hands on physically, you know, your head or your shoulder, your arms, whatever. And with animals, that's just not always like an option. I've worked with a lot of horses, ponies, um, dogs, and cats, and I'm always looking to branch out and work with any other kind of animals. Oh, I've done guinea pigs as well. That was really fun.
Oh,
It was
nice.
almost like with the horses and the cats and dogs, I'm working on an individual basis, but I went and I did some work with some guinea pigs, and there was like four of them because they are community animals and they all live together. And it was almost like they all had their own vibe, but also like the pack. I don't know what a pack of guinea pigs is called,
I know that's
but
we're gonna have to look
you
that
know,
up afterwards. Yeah.
yeah. But the energy of that group of animals has its own energy, like a collective energy as well that you can work with, which was really cool. And I guess you kind of see that too in like multi dog houses or multi cat houses. But so one of the first things is I don't always lay hands on the
Yeah.
animal. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I honestly find myself more distracted when I do, as opposed to just having space to kind of energetically see and do things in my like with my mind or my third eye. And I will go in and it's very similar actually. I do my protection, I call in my helpers, I open up to the energy source and I begin channeling. They all animals, all sentient beings have the seven main chakras that we have. They are different within animals where it feels like a simplified system, you know, as opposed to um, a house of cards, like a three-dimensional thing. This is maybe just a picture laid out on the table. You know
Oh,
what I mean? So it's a little bit different. The systems are different. They do have different chakras outside of the seven main chakras. They have chakras in their feet and hand or paws. Sorry, paws and
I
hooves.
know. Right? Well, and like, so with the chakras,
hmm
like in the human body, you just look at it as a straight line going down. Are theirs in a like straight line going down, or is it? Or I guess like is their heart chakra in their chest? Is their solar plexus by their ribs?
Yeah, I would say it's very, very close. It's very
Mm,
close to where you would find it in a human body. Of course, it's going to be different for different types of animals. Like it comes to a fish or
yeah,
something like
I've never
that.
even
It could
thought about
totally
that.
be
That's
different. I
yeah.
have never personally worked with fish, but
Mm,
I have fish in the fish tank at home. I could give it a try.
yes.
I'm gonna have to
See what you
experiment
see.
now.
Yeah.
And then, their third eye sits in the brow. The crown sits usually between like, I'll use a cat for example because cats are very, have similar types all over. So,
hmm
uh, third eye here, crown in between the ears on top, throat on their throat, heart in
hmm
their chest, solar plexus is like the upper stomach area, sacral down by like the bladder, and then the root chakra is where the tail meets the body. So where our tailbone
Okay.
would be, pretty much in correspondence.
hmm
They also have chakras on each paw. There's also chakras in the ears that are connected to kind of like it's almost like a grounding chakra, but it's different than the ones in their feet because the ones in the feet actually connect to the earth and do grounding. The ear chakras are almost like, how do I describe it? It's almost like an orientating chakra, like it's orientating them in their space in the world, right?
hmm
Um, Everybody has an aura. People have auras that go out what, like 6 feet maybe.
hmm
Sometimes you can feel that. And then horses actually have an energy field of around 180 feet out.
Oh, wow. I didn't
So
know that.
horses are very, very intuitive. Yeah, their energy field goes really far. And it's because if you think about like from a horse's perspective, they can run really fast. They have
hmm
big open spaces, but they're also herd and prey animals. So having that big of an awareness around them, around where their herd is, where there could be predators, where, there could be creeks or changes in the landscape that could cause injury, things like that. Like their awareness is so much bigger.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I had a friend that used to use her horse for healing on
Mm-hmm.
people, and just being around that horse, it was like the energy field did feel big. Like I wasn't looking at it to see how big it is. How long did you say? 180
About
feet?
180 feet,
That's
yeah. And
crazy.
I
I
mean,
mean, that's
everybody's different. So some
right.
horses will be smaller, some horses will be bigger, but that's like, yeah.
Well, and
And it's
that
like a bioenergy measurable field, just like our
yes.
bioenergy field is too.
Well, and that explains a lot too because she would like have groups of people and then like they would sit around this horse and the horse would start emitting whatever healing frequencies and they would all feel it and stuff and they didn't have to be real close or like right
Mm-hmm.
up on the horse or anything. So it was I don't know. That's really cool though. And if you think of a horse, they're such an explosive animal, like energy wise. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you ever seen one just take off running, they're just
Yeah.
like, and then, but that is really, I never really thought about that with like the herd kind of mentality or like a prey kind of mentality of
Mm-hmm.
how they aren't safe. So they do need to have that awareness and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So when you're doing the energy healing and you're, let's say you go to a person's house and you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, what are like, how does that work out? How do you do that?
So usually I go to a client's home to work with the animals, and we go into a room, usually like a spare bedroom or a basement or an area that the animal is comfortable in and like contained.
Hmm.
One of the and then like we'll come in, I'll sit down, I will give the animal a minute, because if it's like some of the clients I do dog grooming for, I've gone to their home and done reiki on them, and the dogs get so excited that I come in and they're
Yeah,
like,
I know. Yeah,
and
I
they come
can.
in and they're like, oh my god, you're here, like here's my toy, here's my bed, like they're like
Oh,
showing me around, you know what I mean?
that's awesome.
And it's really fun, and we take a few minutes to like settle in, we sit down, um and I do offer a couple different types of sessions. So I do just straight animal reiki, but that always has communication with it, because I don't know how to not have communication when I'm
Hmm.
when I'm connected that
I think it's
way.
inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I
yeah,
couldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to do, you have to pay more for that. Like, no, it's
it's
included. That's
already
just part of it.
happening.
I do just animal communication, where I just sit down and have a conversation with the pet. And then I also do what I call a joint session, where I will take the owner and the pet and we will hang out in the living room or in whatever space. And I will go through chakra by chakra, the owner and the pet together.
Hmm.
And I look at each chakra. I look at the owner's chakra, I look at the pet's chakra, and then I look at the connections between the two. And I
Um,
go through each one, and I often won't say anything during the session unless I feel inclined to ask a question. I usually write everything down and then we talk about it at the end, because I find it just is more streamlined that way.
do you just have like the person sit there and you just kind of go through it
I
that
just
way?
do like I go through a short meditation with them to kind of
Hmm.
take them into a meditative state and help them relax. And then usually, if the owner is nice and relaxed, the pet will relax too, especially if they're really strongly connected. And I go through chakra by chakra. I go through the body as well. I ask their guides, my guides, anybody that shows up, basically, um, if there's anything I need to tell them or anything I need to know. Um, and we go from there. I've had dogs come up to me like I'm meditating, or her owner's meditating, and we're like in the zone, and I'm like energy moving, and then the dog gets up and comes over and brings a squeaky toy and just starts squeaking in my face, or the cat just leaves. They're like, I'm out
Yeah,
of
all right,
here.
I'm
I don't
gone.
want to be any part of this. And you have to be able to like roll with the punches. Like, it's definitely honed my ability to stay focused, because the dog's running around or he's bringing his toy, or sometimes, a lot of the time actually, the dog will have to get up and go outside and go potty
Uh,
during the session or immediately after, because it's like part of that energy flush, you
yeah.
know? And
When they do like, so two questions.
mhm,
How are you seeing the person's chakras
mhm,
and how are you seeing the animal chakra? That's kind of one question combined. But then if the dog like goes in the other room or something
mhm,
and you're not done with it yet,
mhm.
are you like astral traveling into the other room and doing it or how does that work?
I think I am. Most of the time, I ask the people that I go to the client's home, I'm like, put us in a contained room,
Oh
so
yeah,
that they
that's a good
can't like
idea.
leave. Cats are a little more difficult, because cats are very opinionated on where they should be, and all of their things at all times. But um, yeah, I think I do kind of astral travel, because just because they are in the other room doesn't mean that they aren't still a part of the healing session.
Hmm.
But one thing that I always get from the animals is also consent, just like a person. I say, I'm here sharing energy with you, and usually I'll get a signal, some kind of feeling that like they're open to it, or sometimes they won't be very open to it. And it's almost like I see it as kind of sending the energy in stasis, right? So like the energy goes, but until the animal is willing to accept the energy, it kind of just hangs out and waits for that.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Like if they're not if they're like, no, I don't want it, you just
mhm,
kind of
mhm,
leave the energy there, and then whenever
mhm.
they accept it,
It kind of
it
goes
goes.
into them.
That's good.
I've had resistance with like some of the horses that I've worked with where it was like they were like, I don't know you, I don't trust
Mm.
you. And they will almost, I've had horses like I will tune in to them and I'll see them in my mind's eye. And usually that's what I do is I picture the animal in my mind's eye and then I will see energy or a color somewhere on their body or I will see something. I had a horse that right on the back of their neck, where their neck meets their body, it's like the end of their mane. That's where like their saddle pommel goes, right?
Hmm.
And I was seeing these metal pinchers pinch this area. And I said to the owner, I'm seeing this something metallic and pinching in that area. And she said, for about 3 years, that horse had an ill fitting saddle that was tight on that
Mm.
area that they didn't realize was an issue until like later. And that she had pain there. And I just got like, I
Oh,
was like working out the pain there. I've had horses where I'll close my eyes and I'll see them running at me almost like they're trying to scare me away or
uh,
like they're trying to
yeah,
intimidate me. Like,
yeah,
you mess with my energy. And I'm just like, I'm only here to help.
yeah,
You're humans here. They trust me. If you're open to it, I only want to help. And it'll take a few minutes for them to kind of let their guard down. And then if I have multiple like repeat clients where I come back, I rarely have any issue because they're like, oh, it's you again. Okay, we're
yeah.
here to work on
So like
this.
they remember, and
Mhm.
also you can reason with them. It seems like, and talk with them. And do you feel like uh, different? And I'm assuming the answer is yes, but do you feel like different animals, like cats, dogs,
Mhm.
horses, whatever, guinea pigs, like, do you feel like they have like totally different, I guess, like way of looking at the world, or way of understanding the world, or way of communicating, or personality wise, or how do you, what would you say about that?
I would say, yes. They like every animal is different and like in their energy signature,
Mm-hmm.
and not just like based on their species, but also like as individuals. Dogs are very like grounded and earthy, and they're also super, super connected to humans. Because if we think about how long dogs have been a part of humanity and how long we've bred them, we've trained them, they've grown up with us. That's why like therapy dogs are so effective because their energy is automatically like attuned to humans. They
Mm.
are so in touch with their humans energy. A lot of the times when our dog is having um I would say having problems or having issues, whether it be behavioral or medical, sometimes it's like a mirror. And it's like, this is the thing, like your dogs or your cat will actually take on your illnesses or your energy or your blocks and try to channel them into their own bodies and like cause their own health problems because they are helping you as a human. And there
Mm.
can be a lot of like guilt associated with that for people. I've personally dealt with that myself. As you know, like about a year and a half ago, one of my dogs was diagnosed with cancer, and I thought it was my fault, and it was my fault to blame, and I was doing something wrong, and um, I actually reached out to another friend of mine who does animal communication, and I was like, I need you to talk to this dog, and I need your help, and I don't know what to do. And I had a session with her, and she said, something is telling me that this is just part of Lolly's journey. And this is part of her contract for coming here. She has this is part of her lessons in her life, and it's not really a reflection of you. And then other times something will happen and I'll be like, okay, is this me? And it's like, yes, actually, this
Yeah.
is you,
Yes,
you
it
know?
is.
Um, and it'll be like, okay, so where am I? Then I'll take a look at where I can think about where my energy is around something. What am I avoiding? It's usually through avoidance that things manifest that way, just like in the human body.
Mhm.
But it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just them and their journey, and they're figuring things out too, because they are, like us, they are a soul trying to live experiences and a piece of the universe experiencing itself.
Do you feel like there's a do you feel like there's any like karmic reason? I'm sure there could be, but like on a wide like range of animals, like do you feel like there's like a karmic reason they came back as an animal instead of a human, or do you feel like that's just what their soul needed at this time, or do you how do you feel like that works out? Because
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's so much, I don't know how much I subscribe to the belief of like things happening because of karma, personally. So it's hard for me to say because I think that it's more about what your soul, what your higher self or your oversoul is needing to experience or learn more about. Um, earlier this wait no not earlier this year, last year, I had a session with a woman who adopted a dog, and we had a joint session, and it was a really great session. And she told me that she feels like the dog is more like a cat sometimes, and that she thinks she was a cat in a past life.
mm-hmm.
And so I asked the dog while we're in session, why does she think this? And the dog said, well, yeah, I was a cat, and I've been a cat a few times, and I've mastered. It was like the dog, her soul had been a cat, and cats are very spiritually connected. Like they can astral travel, they're in and out of the physical world all the time. That's why they sleep so much.
That would make sense,
And
yeah.
dogs are very earthbound spirits. They don't astral travel that much. They aren't very into the spiritual, they're very in the physical. And this particular soul wanted to come through this life cycle as a dog because she wanted to experience more of physical reality
Mm-hmm.
and more about earth and understanding it more. And the human that she had chosen to go with was, um, a person who liked to go on hikes and do trails and stuff. And like this soul wanted to go on adventures and experience the earth and what it's about. And the human was needing help spiritually, psychically, and like developing there. And the dog was like, well, this is a great pair up because you're going to teach me how to be on the earth, and I'm going to be here to kind of help you with your spiritual development. And
Yes.
they were starting to develop their own animal communication between the two of them, which was really interesting.
I think that's amazing, and
Mm-hmm.
I love how like each part there like they needed each other, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
one came down for that person, the other one came down. I just love how the universe works out that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to say a couple things on the karmic stuff. I'm right there with you. I don't necessarily think I believe that like we're coming down for some karmic reason,
Like as a
or
punishment, you're not big
yeah,
on punishment.
me either at all. Um, and then I was reading or I was listening to, I don't know if it was a, I don't know what I was listening to, but I heard that dogs have so much cancer now because they are not outside as much and being and grounding and stuff like that. Same could be said with humans and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what do you think about that?
I have never heard that myself before. Um, I I feel like it could be a many different things about the way our society is structured, about, the types of food and the medical care and the breeding of the dogs
Mm,
throughout the centuries that they've been our companions. It could be down to genetics. But personally, coming off the top of my head with this,
mm,
I would say I feel like it might have more to do with, like I was talking about earlier, with how our animals will take on our stuff a lot. And I think that as a collective, dogs are trying to help filter out humanity's energy,
Mm-hmm.
which you know that we are going through a lot energetically as humans at this time on earth. And that's what kind of feels right for me. And that doesn't mean as an individual, your energy is bad and your dog's getting cancer because of your bad energy. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying more of like as a collective species, dogs are taking on a lot of the humans' suffering, a lot of the humans struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and as a collective humanity, working through our suffering, working through our struggling, letting go of things, and learning how to kind of energetically care for ourselves, we can help all of the creatures that live with us.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think it's cool to just look at like the bond between an animal and a human because let's just use a dog for an example. And it's just like that bond is so like if something's up with your dog, you automatically just like know it. And same with them. And like you said, we have service dogs that are helping with um, like if someone has a seizure, they'll let them know they're getting
Mm-hmm.
ready to have a seizure before they have the seizure most of the time. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like for dogs to have that, that's just super amazing. I've told this story before, I believe, but I had a teacher one time that was actually, I'll say this first. I always heard that dogs were protectors and cats were healers. That's what I have went a long time believing.
Mm.
And my one of my teachers slash one of my good friends, she had a cat that used to help her. She used to do energy healing. The lady would do energy healing on people, and she would put crystals on the people's chakras, and the cat would come up and swipe away each crystal as the chakra was like done. And so the cat like helped them with helped her with the session. And I want to tell this story as well of like just seeing animals and work with this area. Is I was doing a session one time on a lady, and I was on her root chakra, and her root chakra was like a mess in a
Mm-hmm.
way. And I was like, really needs some work, so I'm going to go ahead and start doing it. And as I started doing it, the cat, I was at her house. The cat came in and it jumped up and it laid like right in her lap, like in between her legs on the table, like nuzzled up just against her root chakra,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And I was like, whatever. I mean, this is in the beginning of my journey, and I was like, whatever. We'll just leave it be. I don't think it's going to mess with anything. But as I have my hands over the chakra, I'm sending this energy, and I start to hear the purr of the cat, and it's so loud. And then I tune into the energy of the cat, and it's like emitting this rainbow frequency that was like vibrating and breaking up and doing so much with the root chakra. And it was just something really amazing to see. And at that point, for me, I saw just how strong the bond is between us and animals, and just how much is going on behind the scenes with animals. Because like if you had a cat jump up on your chest and just start purring, you may think, oh, he likes me or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
that cat might be saying, oh, they have some really stagnant energy in their heart chakra that needs to be released, or they have some
Mm-hmm.
health stuff or whatever. So I don't know, I think that's really cool. When it comes to animal communication, how do you feel like so? And we kind of already touched base on it a little bit, but like, do you have any stories about like an animal told you something and then you it came true? I know you said the one about the horse,
Mm-hmm.
and I just found that interesting. I love hearing stories about that. And I know I'm putting you on the spot with it, so if you don't have any, that's fine. But do you have any stories that you can share?
Let me
or
think.
or with just healing
Mm-hmm.
animals, just any cool stories with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me think. There's been a few times that things have happened or I have seen certain things and um they have like after talking to the owner they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing."
Mm.
The horse with the saddle, the ill-fitting saddle was one of them. I also had a dog that I was like looking into the solar plexus and I kept seeing a teddy bear and I was like, okay, um, maybe he has like a teddy bear toy or something that he like loves, because dogs like to talk about their toys too.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to the owner, and they were like, "No, I don't know what that could be." And then a little while later, they reached out to me, and they said, "I was talking to my dog, and I realized I called him Baby Bear. That's
Oh,
like one of her nicknames for him."
yes.
And in the solar plexus is like a lot of identity stuff. So he sees himself as like Baby Bear. That's one of his names.
Oh, that's
Um,
cute.
I also did a reading where I was like, I'm seeing two names. And she was like, well, this was her name when we adopted her, and then we changed it to this name.
Oh,
So,
wow.
because like she was confused about why she had two names. The dog
Yeah,
didn't understand why her name wasn't the same as it was. And they were like, they wanted to name you something different.
that's
And
interesting.
and then the dog was like, okay, I can let go of this old name, and then it would dissolve, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. One of the very first sessions that I did with someone's cat that I did not know, because I did a lot of like friend sessions first before I reached out to anybody else. And I kept seeing the cat trying to jump up high. And I'm like, she's having issues with her child. She had like a toddler and the cat like getting along and like having problems. The cat was peeing, and I was like, what I could read into it was insecurity. And I was like, she's showing me like her trying to jump up high and not being able to land anywhere. Like that's what I'm seeing in my
Mm,
mind. And the owner said at our old house, she had a floor to ceiling cat tree. And the cat could get up onto the tree and get away from whatever was going on. And like she would like to perch up there, up in high places and watch. And at the new place, she only had the small, like
mm,
scratching post size areas. And the cat did not have anywhere up high to go and escape to. And so they got her you know, a taller thing that the kid couldn't access, the child. I was like, maybe you want to do like shelves or find a
yeah.
way to give her a space, because cats are either bush dwellers that they like to like be on the ground, or tree dwellers, we call them, that
Yes.
like to be up high and see everything that was going on. And that's like cats are different personalities.
Right.
I also want to touch on what you said about cats are healers and dogs are protectors. And I don't think that it's quite as simple.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that may be a general thing, but I think there are plenty of dogs that are healers. And I think that cats are spiritual and energetic protectors, hardcore.
Mm,
I know cats personally that will look for spirits, not let spirits into their home. They are like the guardians in that way. And I know that a lot of the dogs that you see going into hospitals, going into old folks' homes, things like that, definitely have a lot of healing energy. I think that they are as unique as people in a
yeah.
lot of ways.
I agree. And I think, and I'm completely open to that because I think, like, if you look at cats, I mean, they are more of a spiritual kind of being. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they would be doing some, like, spiritual warfare with, like, anything trying to get in your house or mess with you or anything. And then dogs are, I mean, they are protectors as well in a
Mm-hmm.
physical realm, but I mean, they're obviously healing. But I firsthand saw a cat healing. So, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't think it's like a blanket statement, obviously, but like, or I think it is a blanket statement. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's like, yeah, whatever. So, but I think that, I mean, dogs obviously have to be healers in some way, shape, or
Mm-hmm.
form because they're, I mean, that they're used for that for so many different reasons.
And
And
when we look at our human relationship with um, animals, and like the animals we've domesticated and things like that, I think that it's about, in a weird way, animals are sentient, and like we don't think of ourselves as animals, but we are. Like
mm,
human beings are animals too. We have an animalistic nervous system, and animals can sense that when it's activated, when we're activated into fight or flight. And usually we can sense that about them. And that's like an energy exchange. It's not, it could
mm,
be like subtle body language hints, but it can also be like it because you feel it. And when we think about our history with animals, there has been a lot of situations where people weren't the kindest with animals.
mm,
And however, I feel like dogs and cats and things like horses are so closely connected. A lot of people have very intelligent birds and they're very connected to their birds as well, parrots and things like that. Um, the energy that we as humans have put into our pets and into our animal companions has given them more sentience in a way and
Mm,
more awareness and like given them more energy to kind of almost in the way that like what you think affects your reality. The more you're thinking about your pet, the more energy you're giving your pet, the more energy we're giving this species, the more energy that they have, the more awareness that they have, the more almost like their consciousness elevates, like
yeah,
we help them to elevate consciously.
I can 100% see that, and I think I don't know. This there's been a lot of things that's been said that I'm like dwelling on as well because I don't know. I think it's I love hearing your opinion on all of it, and like being able to communicate with an animal is something like special, obviously, which I think everyone can do to some
Mm-hmm.
level. Some might be better because they're or better at it because they're more open or they're more connected or whatever. Um, so I guess kind of what I would ask you from here is like with animal communication, do you have any tips for people to on how they might be able uh, to communicate with their animals better or listen to their animals better? Or are there any cues that they can look out for or anything like that off the top of your head, obviously?
Yeah, I know absolutely. I definitely do. I actually discuss this with clients
Nice.
pretty regularly if they're interested. But number one out of everything else, I would say is slow down. Slow down. Take a second and tune in because, like, once you start to understand how to feel energy, it's a game changer for every aspect of your life, but especially when you're working with animals. And so take a moment to slow down and if and not and be present, let go of some distractions, let go of everything else going on. When you're taking your dog on a walk in the park and say you're going through a trail or a hike and no one else is around, like take a moment to try to tune in with them. Even when they're laying on the couch sleeping next to you. I know a lot of people don't have commercials anymore, but if
Yeah.
you're if you have an ad break or something or in between shows, push mute, push pause, and sit there and try to feel into their energy for a second. And I guarantee you, you'll feel something. The second thing would be trust yourself because so many times you know what your dog's thinking. And and then you go, oh no, oh, I'm crazy. Oh, I don't believe that. Oh no, I'm just making that up. But trust yourself more. You
Mm,
do. And the third thing I would say is give yourself a break. A lot of people hold themselves to really high standards when it comes to caring for their pets, and a lot of pets are thrilled to just be in your life.
mm,
Like that's not to say there aren't cases of neglect and things like that, but like your dog knows how much you love them, even if you can't walk them every single day, even if you can't, get up and do frisbee every single day. They aren't mad about it. They're just so happy that they get to like live with you and be a part of your life and be your best friend.
yeah. Well, and I think when first off, I think all that's great advice, and I think like for me, I used to try to communicate with my dog, and I would be like, "If you can hear me, get up and come over to me," and it would like work sometimes, work not sometimes, and but I think that like a couple things is like you say trust. I think when you're communicating with an animal, it is so like you have to have trust because you're most likely not going to be getting any feedback. So
Oh
like you have to
yeah,
have that trust
I
there,
know.
and then
Oh.
and I just think that like you said, just quieting your mind, quieting yourself, and just trying to tune into the animal. I think that that's like I think we all need to do that, and we need to get to know
Mhm.
our animals. So something that I'll do with my dog is I'll be petting her, and I'll like when you put their hair back, or like, and you're just like petting them, and I'll look her in her eyes, and she'll look me in my eyes, and at that moment I just use that those few seconds to um, connect with her. And
Mhm.
I'm also like, I guess something that's really important to say as well is it's not like you're always here. Like it's not like you look at them and they're like, I need food or something. Like you're not. It's not. You're usually not going to hear it. You might if you're
Mhm.
clairaudient, which
Mhm.
some people might not know what that is, but if you're able to hear on another
Mhm.
level, but it's I think that it's important to understand that it does come across as a feeling or a understanding or a thought or like you were saying, you were seeing a teddy bear and then that teddy bear meant the name that the lady was calling the dog and stuff. So anyway, I think that many people can utilize what you have to offer, and I think that um, one of the things that I love that you do is the couple kind of like the
The joint
joint
sessions.
session.
Yeah,
There we
yeah,
go.
yeah.
I love that because it is. I don't know. Like that's what I was going to say a second ago. Is you have mentioned to me before that you think that a lot of the times, like if a dog has a behavioral issue or there's something going on, a lot of the times it does stem from the owner or something going on within the owner's energy. So I think
Mhm.
being able to sit down with both of them and go through their energy and you said that their chakras kind of correlate sometimes, and I
Mhm.
just think that that's awesome to be able to do. For everyone watching, we're going to get ready to wrap up. But do you, or if you would like to tell us how people can get a hold of you for your animal communication or human or whatever, um, animal healing, whatever they need.
Absolutely. You can find me at my website, which is throughlovehealing.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram at Through Love Healing. Um, I'm working on the TikTok. I'll get it figured out. It's a little tricky. Um, I'm con- I'm also attempting to start my own YouTube, which I'm going to be
Nice.
posting things like meditations and EFT tapping videos, things like that, because I've been getting into that and that's been really cool. And you can reach out through there. You can also check out the website for the Center of Healing and Integration. I'm one of the practitioners there, and you can reach out that way. I do love the work that I do, and I love any opportunity to do more of it. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a job.
Yes.
Working in the grooming industry or food industry, that felt like a job. But when I get to do this kind of stuff, it doesn't. And that's what is amazing about it.
I
So,
think we should all strive to do something that doesn't feel like a job.
yeah.
And if it does start feeling like a job, figure out why it's feeling like a job because
Hmm.
there's a reason.
Hmm.
But well, I truly appreciate you coming on here
Yeah.
and